Do you guys realize what's going to come around the bend? People ask me why I was so outspoken, how I take such strong positions early on, and when people are unsure, right? I'm constantly in the press, I'm constantly getting killed because I go right for the jugular, no questions asked. Because I can always predict the crazy. I just have a remarkable ability to just see the crazy coming down the block, you know? I can just see it. I will never forget the viciousness that I was hit with by both sides of the aisle, by the way, when the Me Too movement appeared, came out of nowhere. You know, suddenly it was hashtag Me Too, and it was trending on Twitter, and every girl was sharing their stories, and conservatives were silenced, and the left was giving them a platform, and everyone was saying, this is good. This is great. This is, of course, we should be talking about sexual assault and rape and rotten industries. That all sounds like a good thing. And it was so obvious to me that the left was going to use it as a tool to take people out, right? To say that we no longer believe in due process, that on the basis of a mere allegation, someone should be forced to step down from their job. I mean, I saw that crazy coming, right? And of course, this is what the left does. They like to create issues. They like to talk about issues that make people uncomfortable. We're dignified people. We don't want to be in a room. You never want to say to someone, oh, okay, maybe there's something wrong, you know, with just condemning people instantly for sexual assault allegations because we're good people. Of course, but the reason that they go across and they find these subjects that make us uncomfortable is because it gives them so much power. When you're talking about race, they want white people to shut up. When they're talking about sexual assault, they want men to feel uncomfortable for them to shut up. And when people are shutting up, that is when the left gets the most yards in the culture war, right? That is when the left runs the game in the culture war. Their goal is to make you feel uncomfortable to use your voice. Their goal is to silence Americans. People keep talking about the silent majority. I'm tired of the silent majority. I just want people to be the majority. Start speaking out and saying what you believe. Because if you don't, we're going to lose this country. We are, in this moment, right now, sitting in this auditorium, we are losing America. You know that, I know that. We've got a senile puppet for a president, right? And we've got a bunch of journalists that are basically trying to make it so that conservatives are not allowed to speak or meet or talk anymore. They used January 6th as almost a false flag operation to push through a bunch of radical change, because that's how the left operates. The left always needs an existential crisis to push through radical reform, okay? And if there is no crisis, they will create one. They will make sure there is a crisis. They will take something that is bad and they will turn it into something that is terrible, because they need to make sure that you are fearful in order for them to execute radical reform. This is what happened during 9/11. We were told after 9/11 that this is just going to be temporary. We're going to change some things around the Patriot Act. You're going to have to take your shoes off. We're going to have to look through everything you have. We're going to have, we're going to have this whole system when you go through the airports, but it's for your safety. Existential crisis, government takes control. When government takes control, they never give it back. I think the only time I was outspoken and against Donald Trump when he was in office was with the coronavirus, when he made the decision to temporarily shut down all of America for a couple of weeks because he was facing so much mounting pressure. And I disagreed with him publicly, and I said to so many people who were so fearful in that moment, that you just, when you are feeling fearful, you have to pause and you have to think. Fear is the name of the game. Fear is how they seize control of the country. Their entire job is to make you fearful so that they can seize more control. And I knew the second that he made the decision to shut down the country, I asked people, I said, do you understand that now we've just made it okay forever when he is not president? I know you think he's not going to abuse it. Of course we didn't think he was going to abuse it. But Donald Trump was not going to be president forever. And now we have just said that it's acceptable, that we have now set that precedent for the government to come in, to shut down our businesses, to tell us to stay at home, to force mask us, and to tell us what we are allowed to do and who we are allowed to see. You don't get those kinds of freedoms back. we set a very dangerous precedent. I don't think a single person in this room disagrees or didn't believe that the coronavirus was real. Of course, we understand that viruses in general are real. Viruses happen all across the world. They happen, smallpox happened during the Revolutionary War, right? There are plagues that happen, there are suffering that happens. It's a condition of humanity. That was never the point. That was never the purpose of me speaking out against the shutdowns and against the lockdowns. It was because I realized that we were implementing a system, a global system, that was allowing people to take control and to take freedoms away from Americans. That's the situation that we're in today. That's the situation that we're in right now. That is why I've used my platform to speak out against this. People ask me, where do you get the courage from to just go out and to say something and to just say what you believe over and over and over again? And I always say that I look at the situation around the world, and you study history, and you learn about these absurd situations in other countries historically, and you go, how could that ever happen, right? How did so many people in a country allow such sheer evil to take place? It seems unfathomable when you look back at different countries, when you study socialist regimes, when you study the Nazi Party, when you study, Mussolini. It seems impossible that an entire country of people allowed it to happen. Even when you look at Venezuela, forget history, think of present, right? You go, how is it possible that Venezuela should be one of the wealthiest countries based on its oil reserves? How is it possible that its people allowed this to happen? Well, this is how it's possible. This is how it's possible because people were too fearful to speak out. Because people were too fearful to be called a name. You're too fearful because you don't want your neighbor to call you a racist. Don't you think those people that lost their countries completely, if they could look back and say, man, I would have been actually totally fine being called a racist. I should have said something. I should have said this is wrong. Man, I would have been totally fine losing a couple of friends. I should have said something before we got to where we are today. I bet all of those people that lived in those countries during those times think that in the retrospect.